Well, this feels like home. This is awesome to be in this environment. I got to confess, I think your shop's a little cleaner than ours is, but this is good. So thank you so much for coming out here and being here today. I think it's important that we do this. It's important that you show up, because there's no doubt about it that agriculture is the backbone of Illinois. Agriculture is the backbone of this country. Every facet of our economy, agriculture is involved somewhere. So thank you for being here. We've got a lot of work to do in Illinois. As governor, you know that I'll be a strong advocate for our farm community. I will aggressively promote Illinois agriculture and work with the industry to create new markets and new opportunities for farmers. I'm proud to be a family farmer. I personally think it's time that we had a farmer in the governor's mansion so we can get our state growing again. The problems of hog-tying our ag community are similar to the boneheaded policies of our current governor, J.B. Pritzker, and his pals, who are creating the problems that we have in Illinois. And friends, there's no denying that. Let's start with taxes. Illinois has one of the highest estate taxes in the country, at a time when even blue states like New Jersey are getting rid of theirs. Estate taxes, they steal the sweat equity that we farmers and business people spend a lifetime building. The government steals it from our families just to give to Springfield. As governor, I will work hard to repeal the estate tax. And when the government forces us to sell our land through eminent domain policies that now exist again through the recent energy bill, the state grabs back cash with capital gains taxes. That's got to stop, and I will work to stop that as well. And our businesses, we should be able to write off investment costs in the same year that we spend the money, not strung out over decades. And we're being threatened with that again. But here's a topic especially on my mind: skyrocketing energy costs and the fear of brownouts. Illinois is not bad, friends, but with our power situation the way it is, it's starting to look like that. I had several counties in my district 2 weeks ago that went through a 3-hour brownout, first time ever. It's coming, it's preventable, and it's got to be addressed. Now, I'm all in for green energy. I see the windmills all around here, but I worry that our climate is changing. We all share that concern. Illinois was once an energy exporter not very long ago. Now, we're on our hands and knees begging to buy energy from others, while our people, our businesses, and our hospitals worry if they can keep the lights coming on. J.B. Pritzker's climate policies are a little more than impractical virtue signals that cannot succeed with the speed of his promises. We all want a cleaner planet. But J.B. has bet the farm, he's bet our farms, and he's throwing snake eyes every time. I will manage the energy transition in a way that we can afford and in a way that will keep the lights on. Friends, our home is in trouble. And it's thanks to cozy fat cat leaders like Joe Biden and J.B. Pritzker that have created this problem. Now, some people, especially the media, think that a downstate farmer could never topple the wealthiest politician in the country. I say, as I've said many times, let them underestimate us. We will show the naysayers the power of hardworking people demanding change. Our government is corrupt, but our people are deeply good. And when we stand together, we discover that change is possible. We will show them what is possible when good people refuse to sit on the sidelines and refuse to settle. Being a farmer means many nights when sleep is hard because you're worried about your crops, you're worried about your payments, and you're worried about the weather, whether it's going to rain or not, or too cold or too hot. It's exhaustion in every bone in your body. But you know that your family, your workers depend on you. You know that your state depends on you. So you wake up each day and you keep putting one foot in front of the other. You know you can't clear a field of weeds if you don't pull them out by the roots. I think everyone here understands that. Well, friends, the only way to fix Illinois is to fire J.B. Pritzker. We need the grit of a farmer in the governor's office. Friends, I feel this down to the soles of my boots. I believe, I know that together we can restore Illinois. We can fix these problems, but we must work together, and we must work for change. Thank you so much for coming out here today, and God bless every one of you.
Can you summarize Illinois' current debt situation, such as a bill backlog, unemployment fund, and pensions, and what actions you have taken or would take to alleviate?
Well, I really appreciate that question, because that may in and of itself be the most important question in Illinois. I was elected in the House in 2019. That's when I served my first term. I came in with J.B. Pritzker, and I came in the super minority, the first time in history in the Republican Party in both houses. And I found something out, that I didn't have a voice. And I'm here to tell you that over the last 3.5 years, there's been no voice. J.B. Pritzker develops the policies. They get amended while we wait, and then they get plopped in front of us when we have an hour to figure things out. Those days have got to end. Under my administration, the table will be filled with everyone, Democrats, Republicans. Everyone will have a voice. Being a farmer, I believe when you see the problem, you point it out. And you may realize that recently you've heard me doing that a lot. The pension system. I've sat for 4 years trying to address the pension system in different committees, only to be interrupted by the chair to be told that, well, we have tier 2, so it's okay, everything's fine, or by the way, it's protected by the Constitution. Yet, in my entire 4 years dealing and talking with state employees, I have yet to find one person. 1 month ago, I was talking to an 85-year-old retired state trooper, and I asked him, are you satisfied with the rest of your pension, that knowing it's going to be coming for you each and every day? And his answer was an absolute no. I'm scared to death. Friends, we can deal with this, but we've got to put it front and center and start working on it. So with our out-of-control debt, which I want to remind you, maybe you can ask this question later, $20 billion of federal COVID money that was laid in the lap of the state, and it was wasted, friends. We still have a large debt in our unemployment insurance fund. And those of you that have employees, well, this fall, because that money's got to be paid back, your unemployment insurance is probably going to double. And anyone's working in Illinois that gets laid off, they're going to reap 20 to 30% less in what they should be reaping. So we should have addressed that. We could have addressed that, but Governor Pritzker chose not to. So now we've got to look forward. 2017, when I first started running for office, the state budget set at $32 billion. Right now today, it's $46.5 billion. So if more money is the answer, we shouldn't have any problems, should we? But yet our problems have grown. So establishing new agency directors who will actually get to work and do something, who have common sense, who are business-minded, and who will begin to develop their own budgets, a zero-based budget. We got farmers here. Did you plant your crops and do things exactly like you did last year? We're always making changes, aren't we? But unfortunately, the state continues to do the same thing year after year. And when something doesn't work, we just spend more money and add to the confusion. I can attest that in 4 years, there's massive amounts of waste. In a perfect world, it'd be nice to slash this budget and be able to send some of that back to you. But we're going to have to use that excess waste that we have to start paying off that pension debt and start paying down our other debt. State workers are ready to go on new hires. put on 401ks so we get rid of this pension problem. I will address that front and center, and I look forward to your help with that, and I have people willing to, there are a lot of plans and answers out there, so that will be addressed front and center.
Thank you, Senator. Shifting just a bit, there's a lot of conversations, schools out in the countryside that are having a lot of challenges. One way, shape, form, or another. You're well aware of that coming from rural Illinois. What are your views on school consolidation?
Again, I served on the North Clay Unit 25's board for 17 years, the last 12 of those as the board president. In those days, I'm not for sure if it's happening so much now, but in those days, we were being shorted money every year. One year we wouldn't get $200,000. The next year we wouldn't get a $400,000. Sometimes the money would come later. Sometimes it wouldn't come at all. Our schools, and especially our colleges, are top heavy with administration. We must address that. That's why college is so expensive. The state dangles the money and says, here it is, but oh, by the way, here's all the here's all the gimmicks to it, and you have to tell us how it's working. So schools then have to hire more administration, and that's taking away from our educational process. And our colleges, it's taken away from our research process. So yes, we have to, everything's off the table, friends, in Illinois, and that's why I'm so excited about coming in next year, because I think the things that we put our heads together and do to get things done, I think we're going to show the nation, I think we're going to show a lot of states across this nation what can be done, and I think we're going to set a lot of examples. So yes, consolidation, maybe starting off in administration, we've got to start somewhere, because Illinois has more units of government, more school districts almost than any other state, and our property taxes continue to increase because of that. So we have to take a good heart. Illinois spends more money per student than almost any other state, yet we lag in our results. Massive changes have to take place in education.
Thank you, Senator. Two of these questions probably go a little bit together, but they are separate. As governor, would you support legislation to create statewide control over the siting of wind and solar projects? And with that in mind, with numerous food security concerns, do you have a long-term plan and how we manage solar and wind projects?
As I've suggested, last year Illinois imported 15% of our energy. Throughout most of the state geographically, the energy is determined by MISO, through the Ameren. I don't know how many of you are on that, but you've seen your electric bills double over the last few months. I'm sure you've gotten a letter warning you of impending brownouts and possible blackouts if the brownouts aren't controlled. So we've got problems. This energy bill that was just signed leads to a lot of those problems because it wasn't well thought out. I have no problem with wind energy. I have no problem with solar energy, but we're not there yet. We need to continue to ease into that, because if we're going to attract industry, if we're going to attract more business, we've got to have the power to supply. And right now, we don't have that. So the first part of the question, state regulation, no, that word scares me right off the bat. So I will look forward to talking with you about that, because I don't have wind energy or solar on my farm. I'm sure there's things that I need to learn about that. But in my administration, I seek to cut government. We must have less government in our lives. More government is what is destroying this constitutional republic.
Thank you, Senator. Since 2019, funding has been available from the state and the federal government to improve broadband service. More funding is likely on the way as a result of the federal infrastructure bill. However, there doesn't seem to be much progress on improving broadband service to actual homes in rural Illinois. There always seems to be an emphasis on rural communities rather than as well as homesteads. What barriers can you address to improve broadband service for rural areas that desperately need it?
So after I was first elected as state representative in the 109th district, that's southeast Illinois, that's just south of Effingham down to White County, an hour and a half distance north and south, and about an hour and a half distance east and west. At the 109th district is the largest geographical representative district in the state. And I enjoyed getting out into the communities. That's one of the reasons why I've been continually climbing this ladder, is because the people love how I represent them. I got to know the communities. I remember one night in Mount Carmel showing up and at the local library at a meeting at 8 o'clock, and there were students, young people lined up as soon as I walked in at one of the desks, and I just commented, well, this is kind of exciting that you stay open this late. And they informed me that the reason they stay open that late is because these students didn't have broadband access, and they were doing that so that they could get their homework done. So I know full well what that's like. I'm also blessed in Louisville, we have Wabash Independent Telecom, and they're one of the most aggressive layers of this cable for broadband access. And I've sat down many times and I've talked with them about the reality of the cost of being in these rural areas, of getting what we need, where we need it, because let's face it, it costs a lot to find that house that's maybe a mile or two, or that stretch that there's only 2 or 3 houses on a 10-mile stretch, and that is a problem because we're farmers. We've got to be efficient, but we also know that if our children and our livelihoods are dependent on broadband, we must have access. So we've talked about how we can couple that with wireless, and it's kind of interesting because just yesterday I was in a factory in the Chicagoland, and Elon Musk, with a lot of these satellites that he's shooting up, they are literally building the panels that will be on these satellites to provide real-time networking. So again, I mean, they're building them. These satellites are going to be launched. I don't know how far away we are from that. I do feel for the families it is a priority. I'm happy that it's being addressed. But the reality is, what can we afford, and where do we need to couple that with wireless at? I think there's other ideas rather than laying cable to every house, as expensive as it is.
Thank you, Senator. In the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, there was a provision that would allow the use of eminent domain to take private property for a project that is not a public utility. Do you support giving private companies that are not a public utility the right to use or to take private property?
I do not. I have 2 counties in my Senate district that are affected by that, and I stood on the Senate floor and I said, there's a lot of things wrong with this bill. Number 1, it forces coal out too early. Number 2, it forces natural gas out too early. Number 4, it makes our dependency on wind and solar too soon. But I said, all that aside, if there was one reason, and one reason alone, why I would vote no on this bill, it would be because of the eminent domain clause. Friends, those days are over. And I want to tell you, from the other side of the aisle, the message that came back to me was, well, one of these days we may need to tie into that for our own needs. There's no reason why that line needs to cross our state to pump solar or to pump coal-fired energy from Wyoming to the eastern seaboard. We should be providing that.
Thank you, Senator. Once elected governor, what is your vision for who will lead the Illinois Department of Agriculture, and what are the plans for increasing support for the department?
You will be front and center for that. And I tell you that. We will be every agency. So serving as a senator, I still get these notices where deputy director positions, 3.5 years into the administration, are still being filled. Now, that's wrong. Priority number 1 will be to fill all of these positions soon with men and women who have business background, who have a love and a desire for Illinois, who want to see its success, and who are actually qualified in the arena that they serve. So to that question, every time we get out and I meet new faces, I'm subconsciously thinking, you'd be good for education, for DCFS, for ag, But when that day comes, it's going to come, so be ready, because if you're setting out there and you're interested in that position or you have input, I will be looking to seek your advice.
Thank you, Senator. The past 2 years, the state budget has been closer to being balanced, and in the future, how do you see that continuing, as federal funds will probably not be as readily available?
The state budget hasn't been any closer in the last 20 years to being balanced as it was last year. Every year, our government, both sides of the aisle, go and depend on borrowed money or selling bonds to balance the budget. Now, we're farmers here, right? So let's say we have a bad year this year and maybe we lose a $500,000. Well, what the state would do is go borrow $600,000 and say we made $100,000. That's what's taking place. That's why our debt continues to build. We have got to hold our agencies accountable, and we've got to show transparency. That's why I keep talking about a zero-based budget, where I'm going to, each agency director will build their budget from the ground up, and that's how we're going to expose the waste. My successor, Adam Niemerg, last year called for a forensic audit for our budget. No sooner had he proposed the idea to the bill writer than Frank Montino, the Auditor General, called him and said, "You can't do that." Well, Adam's kind of like me. You tell somebody you can't do it, you're going to do it. But he asked why. And he was told it's going to take about 4 years and cost $250 million to tell taxpayers where their money's going. Friends, that's a problem. And that's Illinois, and that's got to change.
Thank you, Senator. What is your position on agricultural sales tax incentives or exemptions on seed, feed, fertilizer, and farm equipment?
My opinion is it needs to stay as it is. We feed the world, any kind of production business. That's the way it's been. That's the way it needs to stay. But I'm going to tell you, it is under threat. So I hope you ask our governor that exact same question this afternoon, because that will be detrimental. That will decimate the ag economy. What's your break-even cost? I want to tell you what mine is in southern Illinois this year on soybeans. On 50 bushel averages, we're looking at about a $15.10 break-even on our cost of production. And what are bean prices right now? $14.50. Thank goodness we planted a little bit more corn. Usually for us, 3 hours south of here, it's a little bit different. I live in Clay County, and they tell me that it's named that way for the spokesperson, Henry Clay, but I'm pretty sure somebody named it that way because of our soils, because they're pretty tough. So no, there's no way farms can function and survive if that happens.
Thank you, Senator. Going back to the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, the state established goals for the electrification of vehicles in Illinois. What are your plans for addressing how our current liquid renewable fuels like ethanol and biodiesel can be incorporated into the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act?
Well, I can tell you, for the last, being on the road as much as I am, every time I find a gas station, I look for that station that has ethanol, because it's $1 a gallon cheaper right now. So we use those products on the farm. I think until the point in time when food becomes a problem, and I'm going to tell you something, I see that day coming, that we should go ahead and focus on this renewable fuels, and that should be a focus. And I love the idea. We've got great industry with the ethanol plants, and I see that continuing.
Really shifting gears here. In what ways do you plan to unite Chicago with the rest of downstate Illinois?
By focusing on the things that we have in common. And friends, I think you know what those are. Crime, taxes, and schools, and in that order. I'll tell you a quick story. Just a few days ago, Cindy and I were in a meeting. We had meetings all day downtown Chicago, and I can tell this since she's not here. But she was eating lunch, and she dropped a piece of bread on her dress, so the oil on the bread stained her dress, and she knew that couldn't work for the rest of the afternoon. So after we left the restaurant, we went to the TJ Maxx on State Street. And and I'm like, okay, hurry up and get your shopping done. Because here we are downtown Chicago, and I'm standing up and waiting in the aisle. It took about 20 minutes. The whole time that I was there, people were coming up to me, just offering encouragement, saying, we have got to fix things. And friends, I'm hearing that. We focus on what unites us and not what divides us, as our current governor's doing. The things he's talking about, they're not going to change. The things that need to change are the fact that the city of Chicago has become the OK Corral with shootouts and homicides every night. These people don't feel safe. It's real, especially on the south side where they're being ignored. Everyone here knows, I don't even have to ask you, everyone here knows someone who has left the state because of taxes. Everyone here has considered that. We farmers know that we can't, but we think about it. And our schools are decimated. We have got to get the woke policies out of our schools and teach our children how to think, how to work, and how to grow an economy and participate in life here in Illinois and keep them here. That's how we unite the state. And I'm telling you, people in Chicago and the collar counties, they are as fed up as we are, regardless of what the media tells you.
Thank you, Senator. And last question here before closing comments. Currently, the state's livestock industry is regulated by the LMFA, better known as the Livestock Management Facilities Act. What is your position, and how do you wish to continue, if elected governor, to support the LMFA?
Well, I spread about 16,000 tons of chicken manure each year, so I know the advantage and the importance of the regulatory process. I believe it's working. A lot of people come, especially in being the minority chair in ag, people come and say, well, what new laws, what are you thinking about? And my answer is always the same. Our current problem in Illinois is that when we think about our elected officials, we think about new laws. Our state representatives and senators, they shouldn't be writing new laws. They should be representing you and helping us work through these laws and these problems. We don't need any more laws, and especially where we're at with agriculture. As far as I know, everything's fine. Leave it alone. Government, stay out. I'll even look to places that we can reduce regulation. I'm not a livestock farmer, but I deal with the manure aspect of it, so I probably have some to learn there. But you know this. Farm Bureau is going to have a front row seat, and there will be a chair at the table for you. And you will know about stuff. You will have input before the laws get written and you hear about them during the vote. Those days got to come to an end.
Well, thank you, Senator. Closing comments, please.
Friends, we've got a dire situation here in Illinois. Our cost of our colleges is too expensive. I'm not even going to ask for a show of hands, but how many of your children are either attending or have attended out-of-state colleges? And you know what the statistics are. When our children go out of state to college, about 70% of them don't come back to Illinois. As a matter of fact, when our children attend college here in Illinois, a 4-year university, about 50% of them go somewhere else because of opportunity. We've got to change things. I'm not happy with how things are. That's why I'm doing this. I'm a farmer. I've waited all of my life for my children. Cindy and I have been married for 36 years. We have 4 children and 11 grandchildren. And the year that our youngest son came back to the farm was the year that God opened this door for me to serve in this nasty thing called government. I didn't want to, but I figured out really fast that a government of the people, by the people, for the people can only exist and survive with the participation of the people. So friends, we've got work to do. Make sure that your friends, your family, the people that you work with, the people that you go to church with, that they're registered to vote this year. Make sure they're educated how to vote, and make sure they vote. It's slipping out of our hands. Abraham Lincoln told us that if we ever falter and lose our freedoms, it won't be from outside forces. It'll be because we allowed it to happen from within. So I just humbly ask you to consider that, get yourself educated, participate in government, and it is such an honor to sit here before you somewhere. 5 years ago at this very day, I had no idea that I'd be doing any of this. But as farmers, we fix problems, we fix things that are broken, we solve problems, we fix things that are broken, and we grow things. And having this opportunity that I have, I'm not going to sit idly by and just let things happen. I'm going to work to create change for my children, my grandchildren, and for your children and your grandchildren. God bless you, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.